Make sure that during this session we will have more discussions and share different strategies. So I want to welcome you on behalf of VVOB, as well as Fundisa for Change, the Fundisa for Change Keep It Cool Climate Change Education Project. Today, we are going to be looking at how can we build climate smart education systems that prepare young people for a changing world. So this session will bring together policymakers, practitioners, as well as researchers. We will start off with our keynote address entitled Ambition and Challenges of Climate Smart Education Systems, which will then set the stage for our panel discussion a little bit later. And our panel discussion will then look at how do we bridge research, technology, as well as innovation in motivating youth action in climate change. I don't want to be long because we've got a very packed program, but I'm super excited about our opening, our keynote speaker today, Mr. Liko Bottoman. Mr. Liko Bottoman is the Director of Social Cohesion and Equity at the Department of Basic Education. Mr. Liko Bottoman has dedicated his career in advancing inclusive and forward-looking education in South Africa, with a strong focus on sustainability and equity. So today he's going to share his perspective on education for sustainable development, its implications for our schools and our learners, the role of climate change education and the teacher professional development in South Africa, and its transition to, yes, welcome, and its transition to a green economy. How did it, don't worry, we'll give you some time to. He will also be looking at how digital solutions and innovation can strengthen climate change smart learning and empower both the educator and the learner for meaningful action. Let me give him a few moments to breathe. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored to call upon Mr. Liko Bottoman to come and address us this morning and give us our keynote address. Yes, he's looking very beautiful, so welcome.
Thank you so much. I didn't even know that it is a keynote address. I usually draft keynote addresses for ministers and deputy ministers. So I'm sitting in a very different position this morning. Good morning, everyone. And my apologies for just walking in as we're starting. I turned 40 earlier this year. And so 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with diabetes. So I've now learned, Professor Hayler, before I start anything, I must go to the loo. Because when you're diabetic, any day and any time is tea time to go to the loo. And it's not the kind of a pee that you can hold in, hey? Because it's not normal. It's diagnostic. So, yeah, my apologies. I only remembered just before we started that I need to go and empty. So, the South African basic education sector is doing a great deal of work in ensuring that we prepare our country so that it is climate resilient and so that we're able to change behavior that leads to climate change, or that rather worsens climate change and environmental degradation in our country. And as you know, if you want to do anything that would impact society, interventionists have worked it out that the best way to work is to work through schools. For various reasons. One, because we've got captive audiences there. Two, that we've got young minds that we can still change. So we're not talking about early childhood intervention or early intervention. That's what you have there. But three, that children have been seen to be really changing the complexion and the posture of society. And we've learned this quite a lot, particularly even with COVID-19. Those of you who have got children will tell you that they had a nightmare of children during COVID-19 around hand washing and mask and all of those things, because then their children were like a pain in their neck, because children can be very good educators. And so we then had to look at the position that we hold as basic education and the 25,000 schools that we have in the country and more than 14 million children that are in our system, to look at what we could then do to play our role. Now, I'm a person of analogies, and I want to give you an analogy about the African monarchy. I don't know how other monarchies work, but what we understand is that when you are born in the monarch, but you are too young to take the throne, then your uncle takes the throne, or your mother takes the throne for you whilst you're growing up, until you can then, be of mature age to take up your position. That's what had happened with basic education. Because we're not ready, we're not mature enough to lead the agenda on education for sustainable development and climate change education, the department, the DFFE, then took the seat and held it. And so we're too happy. And I'm sure when you're a young person and you see that there's this uncle who's holding the throne, who convenes these meetings, you're too happy for them to do that. And then comes a day when they're like, you see, now you're old enough, let's tell you, you are king and you must lead. And we look to you to lead. It is very anxiety-provoking, because the work has been held by DFFE for a very long time. And then they come to us and they say, by the way, here are draft strategies that we're starting for you. Here are documents, and here are the partners, and here's the money, and here's expertise. We really became overwhelmed that there is so much that has been happening behind the scenes, which we were not aware of, but that was supposed to be taken up by us. So some 4 years ago, they go to the Transforming Education Summit, which then indicates to us as South Africa that actually the climate change agenda and the education for sustainable development agenda is led by education sectors in other parts of the world. So it is abnormal for South Africa that it is in this way. So you're going to have to take the seat and you're going to have to lead us. And when you look at the work that has happened, so much has been done with a network, a big network of partners. And all that we need to do is to institutionalize and to mainstream. And we're taking up this work At a time when also there is the fourth industrial revolution, there is the digital evolution in our country, but also there's then the digital divide. And so you'll find that anything that is digital based or online or anything of that sort in South Africa sounds good, but it is actually very privileged, because there are still many communities in this country that do not have access to digital resources. It's easy to implement, that's true, and it's probably cheaper to implement anything on digital platforms and online platforms. But we must then know that there are a lot of communities and a lot of children that we're going to be leaving behind if we move too fast. Now, it doesn't say that we're not going to be using digital resources and platforms. It doesn't mean that. I think we need to do that so that we almost catch up with the world, because that's where the world is now. That we are not like, I was in Ethiopia last week and they told me that they are still in 2018, and I said, oh, you must still see COVID. Because they are still in 2018 there. But being a country that is still in 2018, very advanced when it comes to, digital resources, connectivity, and all of that. And, and as I move through African countries, I actually become very jealous, because, I mean, South Africa is regarded as a leading economy in the African continent. But when it comes to connectivity, all of us have got to buy data, we move into spaces, there is no connectivity. Public spaces in African countries have got Wi-Fi. Everywhere you go, you get Wi-Fi connectivity. You don't have to worry about anything. And so, I'm saying that we need to be mindful and not think about using digital resources to drive the climate education agenda on digital. We mustn't think about it from a privileged perspective. We must understand that it is a reality in South Africa that we don't have this. Now, what have we done? Then our uncle DFFE then says, as they try to get off the throne to install us, they say that there's this strategy, and this strategy needs to be finalized, and it needs to be written in a way that indicates to the country and the world that education is leading this, and it has to have a work plan, and it has to be resourced. There must be budgetary support for this work, because otherwise, if there isn't, then it means then that the work is not going to happen, and it will be just another document that is beautiful, that is written by experts, that is sitting there, and that is not gaining any traction. And so, from the onset, they then implore on us the responsibility to ensure that there is proper resource mobilization in the country to do the work. By the way, the work has been also incubated by a lot of donor partners, funding organizations, international organizations. If we have not learned what has happened with this country through the HIV response and the Trump administration, we are going to hit the wall again. Because for many years, the work around HIV prevention and gender equity has been held by American money for many years, more than 30 years. And the money has been growing, hey? It has been increasing. And that's why there's so much money. Everybody, if you look at the work that you try to do here and you look at other parts of the work that you do in basic education, if you come to basic education and health and you look at the resource mobilization and allocation, HIV response has got a lot of money. Sometimes they don't know what to do with it. And they continue to train people on the same things over and over again. Let's use a condom. Hey, get tested. Did you know about syphilis? God. Yeah. Every year. Now, you are a teacher and you have to go through this training, and it gets delivered to you as though you are hearing about it for the first time. It's not even like a refresher, or it's like it's designed that you are like doing it for the first time. Because there's so much money, they can do that. They bring people together to talk about a condom for 5 days just to move the money. And so, and I usually say to people that if we are able to consolidate the resourcing and funding network for ESD and climate change, we may just be the next HIV. Because, colleagues, every day there is an email that comes through. Every day there is something that comes through about someone who has got some resources that are lying around somewhere and they want to do work in schools. Now, another analogy that I'm going to give you is an analogy of the bachelor or the bachelorette. Do you know that program? So there's this bachelor or bachelorette, and there are these people to choose from, and they keep dating each one of them. That's the space at which we are as basic education when it comes to climate change education and ESD. There's just so many people who have got something to offer, to a point that we actually are now sitting in a place where, who do you really work with? There's Prof. Ayla there, but this one also says they are also an expert, that one. And then there are so many of these teacher training programs, and there are so many of these iterations of curriculum. And you sit there and you're like, okay, guys, who do we go with? Do we go with the one that has got more money and sustainable money? Or do we go with the ones that make scientific sense? Or do we go with the ones that are transformational in their thinking? Who do you go with? And I think that's exactly what happens with the bachelor and bachelorette, because these people are providing, or they come with different profiles, and that's exactly what's happening. But what government is good at? Government is good at consolidating and convening. We've got convening power. And so what we want to try and do is to then consolidate the sector so that if everybody is working in the teacher development space for climate change, we need to come together and have one common model. And I know that it's going to be difficult because already people have got mandates and deliverables that they've promised to the people that fund them. So we're going to have to behave like government. There's a province, I won't say by name, Mr. Tlakula, in this country, that is very clear that if you don't do what they want to do, take your money out of the province, they're fine. They can handle it. It's somewhere along the beach. That province, I love that province. I love they govern, you know. So I think that we need to do that as a nation. We need to govern, because our agenda cannot be dictated by promises that were made for money. They've got to be guided by what we need, where we are, and where we need to go as a country. So that's part of they say in Xhosa, uginyilitye. What's that in English? You swallow a stone. Yes, you swallow. It's a stone that we need to swallow and understand that when we say no to the money, what are we saying yes to? And when we say yes to the money, what are we saying no to as government? That's what we need to understand. And we need to live with that decision and be comfortable with it. That we said no to that money because we wanted to consolidate the space. And we wanted the space to be structured. And we wanted the space to be a little bit more directional. How much time do I still have? 1 minute. Okay. So to close my input, there are 5 key levers of change, which means that there is space for all of us. 1, curriculum. And when I say curriculum, please know that I'm not saying that we need a curriculum. We just need to strengthen the curriculum and the manner in which it is delivered, because already 155 subjects in schools have got elements of climate change education. 2, teacher development. And the work that we've done with VVOB South Africa in this country and many other partners, SANBs and everyone, has already charted a way forward around that, because there are teacher training programs that have proven to work. By the way, our teachers are saying that, yes, you may have these elements in the curriculum, but we don't know how to deliver them. And sometimes we skip them because we don't have the content and the technical know-how. 3, it is learning and teaching support materials, because the knowledge cannot be in our heads and in the bodies of people that deliver them. They have got to be backed by support materials that then teachers and children and everyone else that works in the school space can refer to. 4, we've got co-curricular programming, because we do have an understanding in this country that our curriculum does not provide enough space for transformation. It only provides space enough for content understanding, but not transformation, not behavior change. So co-curricular programs are an untapped space, an untapped environment that provides us with the latitude for us to be able to then impart behavior change and impart transformational knowledge to children. And the last one is research. Because without research, there is no evidence that the interventions that we put together work. And by the way, anyway, because again, this is a new space for many South Africans, you're going to have to come up with evidence and things that help South Africans understand what works in this area. Otherwise, we'll be taking anyone that comes and we make the bad choice as bachelorettes. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the bachelorette, the bachelorette analogy. Colleagues, I just want to take us to a Mentimeter. I know you're sitting there and you have a lot of questions for Liko. You'll have a lot of questions for our panelists. We might not all have the opportunity to share our questions, so I just want to invite you to scan the QR code for our Mentimeter that we have for the day, to just capture your thoughts, and then we'll find moments to address those questions. So I'll give you a few minutes to unlock your phone, get to your scan now app on your phone. And if you don't have a QR code scanner, you can always go to your browser and type in menti.com and then add that user code at the bottom there, so that 42478978. Okay, are we happy? Are we still busy? Still busy? Okay, I'll wait. Okay, I'll find another opportunity to share in between. So after the next speaker, I'll share the QR code again for questions. Mr. Potterman, I really loved, I said I love the analogy of the bachelorette. It is not only the system. So in the work that we do around the Fundisa for Change, Keep It Cool Climate Change Education Project, we go to teachers, and there's so much. There's so many interventions that are there to assist the teachers and especially youth. So choosing the right program to be involved in at a school level is also a challenge. And I think organizations such as Fundisa for Change, who are there to really coordinate this work around environmental learning and education for sustainability in the country, really assist us in trying to choose the right partner for the bachelor. So I'm hoping who are doing that. And yes, the big brother, which is DFFE, is also here. So the big brother is not yet leaving you alone. So our next speaker is your big brother. also with I don't want to say that the little sister. Should I say the little sister? The colors. Dr. Fela, over to you. Fela. That's why I held it so back.
Um, Good morning. Thank you, Program Director Ayanda. Good morning, everyone. I am Sibusisi Wehlela. I'm grateful for this opportunity to present in such a big conference. My first time to attend this particular one. As Mr. Bottoman has said many times, we work together on a number of programs. So these are the programs that I'm going to talk about. The purpose of this presentation is just to show what we are doing as a department to address the green skills gap, what are we doing in terms of climate change, all of those issues. We don't work alone. A number of organizations, I'm highlighting the SANBI, the South African National Biodiversity Institute. I will close by talking about challenges and opportunities in the implementation. So, as a background, I just want to say in this country, we've got a lot of policies that create an enabling environment for the youth engagement. I like the way Liko put it, the way when you involve youth, the impact of that. That is why we also do that. So the approach that we have here is that based on all the research that have been done by all these documents, is that we have the approach to skills development. You need to start from the schools, as Mr. Potterman has said. You can see we work well together all the time. So the way we incorporate the environment, we start from the schools, moving to the universities, and then in the workplaces. And the presentation that I'm going to do, you will see what we are doing in all these different areas. So I just want to highlight one of the priorities for the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment. In this year, we are focusing on climate change. It's one of the big priorities for the department. The Climate Change Act came into effect this year, March. And this legislation provides for a coordinated and integrated response, that is why we are working with different organizations, because we need to coordinate, we need to integrate. Without that, we really can't work well together. Thank you so much. Hope it's going to be better. Okay, so we do need to work together. Otherwise, we cannot do such big work when you're working alone. So one of the big programs that we are doing, from the department, there is Mr. Pandelani Chukucha, one of the big people around this big work. We work with academic institutions. Prof. Haler is here, and many others that I'm not going to mention. The long and short, what we are doing here, every year, we train teachers, in simple terms, how to integrate environmental education in their day-to-day teaching. When I used to be a teacher at some stage in my life. I was teaching geography, and we did not have these workshops that we are doing for the teachers. So you just walk into a classroom, you teach geography as it is. So with this Fundisa for Change program, we are assisting teachers in terms of how to talk environmental education in your life sciences. In the olden days, we used to call it what? Biology. Yeah. Now it's a different term. So how to include environmental education when you're teaching maths, when you're teaching English. So that is what we are doing through this Fundisa for Change. Oh, by the way, Fundisa means teach for those who are not South Africans. Okay, Fundisa means change. So we are teaching in a different way than what we used to do in the olden days. We have trained a number of teachers. We do this every year. So we've trained thousands of teachers. I just took this one slide from the survey that is done by our department and the Human Sciences Research Council, together with CSIR and the Department of Science and Innovation. It is such a big research that is done. It's done over a number of years. You can see there maybe from 2007. I took this one slide for just to emphasize something, why we keep doing what we are doing. In this survey, there was one question on climate change awareness, just to test the awareness of the participants in that survey. The question was, how much, if any, would you say you know about climate change? And you still have 50% of the participants saying, little, you know, or if they know anything about climate change. And to me, this says we must still carry on doing what we are doing if there's still so many people who are not aware of climate change and the impacts of climate change. So that is the purpose of doing this, what we are doing, amongst other reasons. Another big work that we are doing, because we need to address the issue of the green skills gap. We work with schools as well as universities, focusing on careers, telling them about different careers. I always say when we go for teacher workshops, if you look at people of my age or my mother's age, we didn't know about other careers those days. All we knew was like teaching, nursing, police, social worker. That is what we knew in those days. But now with these workshops, students get to know what other careers are out there. You know, when I joined the Department of Environmental Affairs, there were few black people, if I can put it that way. There were times where you could be in a room like this and you are the only Taki in the room. So things are changing now. So that is why we need to keep pushing, doing what we are doing these career workshops, so that we can show them, we even tell them where to do those qualifications, which universities you can go to, what type of employment opportunities that are available out there. So that is why we keep doing these career workshops. Another program is called Work Integrated Learning. What we do in this one as a department, we assist learners who are doing their qualifications. Before they can graduate, they must get experiential training. So we appoint them and then we place them with the different employers throughout the country. Even in that province, Ndiko, the province along the coast, they cooperate with us on that particular one. So yeah, we're very lucky. We've got a very good relationship. So we place them so that they can be exposed to different things. You know, they can get to know about climate change, mitigation and adaptation. They learn about environmental impact assessments. They learn so many things, new topics like your just transition. So they get exposure from the real workplaces. Right now, I've got one student in my office who is assisting me as my office administrator. But most of the time, we are assisting students on environmental management, nature conservations, who are dealing with those qualifications. So that is our main focus, but there might be one or two who is doing something like public administration, then we do help. These are the institutions that we work with. We work with different institutions every year, but for this year, budget constraints also play a role. So we are only focusing on these particular institutions. And then another project, we are doing what is called Greening Colleges Initiative. Here we work a lot with TVET colleges, because we believe that skills development is a cornerstone for driving the economic and social transition towards sustainable development. So we've got students here. I just want to show you this, the training that we do with them. This is just one of them, where there was a renewable energy transition. I want to show you this one. There's going to be a video that I'm going to play here, just 21 seconds. So here we had TVET colleges participating in renewable energy boat competition. Each college had to build a boat from scratch. Okay, they were testing if it's working, other than ESCOM and coal. So it's working, okay. Now here I'm going to talk a little bit, like I said, we're not working alone. We also have SANBI. What SANBI is also doing, in our case we work with learners who are still working on their qualifications, so they come to get experiential training. SANPI is working with those who have already finished their qualifications, so they are called interns. They are there for like 2 years to get experiential training. As a department, we also assist them with the funding. So for the 2 years, 23 to 2024, they managed to assist more than 1,000 of the interns. They also do the same thing. They place them with the host employers. They involved about 79 host employers. And those students were there, or graduates, they're no longer students, the graduates, they were there to get experiential training on various things like GIS, policy analyst, wildlife management. They got experience on a number of things. Out of that number, 300 of them managed to get permanent jobs. Yes, thank you. And then this is just to show you the experiences of different students as they work with different host employers, what they do in the real job. And then here I'm just saying, in this particular slide, students were sharing their experiences, thanking SANPI from, accepting them, going through the 2 years, and then they managed to get permanent jobs. And you can see these are the graduates they were celebrating. So in conclusion, it's just to say, we do have challenges. Yes, we have successes, but we also have challenges. And I noticed the same thing with us and SANPI. Our challenges are around the same things, opportunities also around the same issues. Partnerships works for us. I mean, we cannot do this type of work alone. You just can't. Financial resources, they matter a lot. We need lots of money we can get. I'm just showing you an example here of our targets for 23-24. What happened there is that the target that particular year was to train only 150 teachers. But with the support that we got from VVOB and other organizations, we managed to train more than what we were supposed to train. So we need lots of money. Same thing with the SANPI colleagues. They say collaboration with other stakeholders, it is key. You need money when you do this type of work. Without that, it becomes a challenge. So we have a similar challenge because we're running like sort of the similar projects. So you need to work with other people. Otherwise, the project doesn't work well. And we need lots of money we can get. I'm available during tea time. If you can just tell me where I can get more money. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hlela. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're all looking for money after who did what to the world. All right, colleagues, I want to bring us back to we have a few questions, which we'll take at the end, but for those who didn't get an opportunity to scan the QR code, I implore you to please scan, make yourself heard. Yeah, can I give it 10 seconds? Okay, are we good? All right, now we're shifting gears. Now we're going to have a conversation from policymakers, researchers, as well as practitioners who are in the field working with young people in trying to find those innovative ways to look at the challenges that climate change has or environmental learning has. So I'm going to call up our speakers for the panel discussion. Somebody said, that you've been waiting for that panel discussion. Okay, so I'd like to call up our first panelists, but I'll call you all to come on the stage all together. Just first panelist, Prof. Hlela. Prof. Hlela is a distinguished professor on environmental learning. If you don't know Prof. Hlela in the ECD and environmental space in South Africa and the world, I don't know, where have you been? Prof. Hela is also based at Rhodes University, doing some amazing work. And Prof. Hela is actually one of the, I'd like to call them the key founders of the Fundisa for Change coordination body. Prof. Hela, I don't want to be long. Can you please join us on the stage and take a seat? Then we also tap into some of the science people, people that help us with the mappings of climate plan and assist young people in really educating them around these very necessary skills. So I'd like to call on my Zulu is coming in fast. Leon Beckelans. Yes, sorry. But if you could come up. Leon is also a project manager from Nesca Maps. And then we also have Ruth Masanje. Ruth, I hope the Masanje was right. Yes. Ruth Masanje, she's also a project manager from Plan International in Malawi. And then we have our local project manager, Wetu Mamela. And Wetu is from Plan Act. What we're trying to do with this conversation, colleagues, is to really look at, I will go back, I think the keynote speaker gave me the tagline for the day, that there are all of these programs that are happening, and how do we make sure that young people first know about them, and how do we continue to engage with across sectors, across borders. For now, I just want to turn our attention to one of the programs that we're doing with Fundisa for Change. So Fundisa for Change does a number of programs. You've seen Dr. Hlela speak about the work that they're doing from Department of Fishery and Forest and Environment. We've also partnered up with Fundisa, not partnered up, but we are part of the Fundisa for Change sort of network. And we have a program called the Keep It Cool, Fundisa for Change, Keep It Cool Climate Education Project, which I would like, it brings both the big brother and the sister. I think we've also recognized that schools are where communities are at. I think schools are used for churches, schools are used for local meetings. So schools for us were also a very key sort of strategic choice for us to continue this work that we're doing. So the Fundisa for Change Keep It Cool program, we've got the second iteration of that program. We first had this program in 2019 to 2021. And we were working very closely with universities. Universities would work with schools. And now we're also in the Keep It Cool Climate Change Education Program in version 2, which I'm coordinating now. We're trying to find a way to institutionalize this work within the curriculum. So supporting that curriculum strengthening process, capacitating the teacher and the learner as well. So I just want to share we're still in the pilot phase. I just want to share some of the experiences that we've had with the program, seeing what the learners and the teachers are experiencing. I think there was one thing that the keynote speaker spoke about digital skills, and how digital skills sometimes can leave others behind. I think we're learning that in the KIC2 program, that you need to have a very good blend between digital and sort of in-person. So you don't want to do away with the digital, but you want to introduce digital in such a way that it is of value to the beneficiary. So we're seeing that, and we're seeing the coming back of indigenous knowledge systems. One of the schools was doing a recycling project, and I was pleasantly surprised to see learners actually take those plastic bags and bring back that home economics work that we used to do. So they were knitting mats, bags, and these are young people who you would think are interested in TikTok. They don't really care about, so the coming back of creativity around environmental responsibility, we're beginning to see. So let me not tell you, let me show you. Okay.
In KwaZulu-Natal, schools are at the forefront of addressing some of the most pressing environmental challenges facing our communities. The responsibility to educate the next generation on these issues falls to our teachers. However, many lack the specialized training and resources required to make the subject both relevant and impactful. Traditional teaching methods can struggle to bridge the gap between classroom theory and real-world application. This can lead to a sense of disengagement among learners. The Keep It Cool 2.0 project was developed to address this need. The initiative provides comprehensive training for teachers and school leaders, focusing on a blended learning approach to professional development. A core component of the project is the establishment of professional learning communities, which provide a collaborative network for educators. This is complemented by an online course offering a repository of resources for ongoing learning. These tools are designed to facilitate the curriculum-activated change project. This integrated approach allows teachers to guide learners in identifying local environmental issues and developing practical solutions. We have seen projects focusing on gardening, improving food security and biodiversity. Others have led to school-wide recycling initiatives. Additionally, projects on water conservation have resulted in learners implementing systems to better manage this vital resource. The result is visible change, driven by the learners themselves. The KIC 2.0 project demonstrates that by investing in our educators, we can empower our learners to become active agents of change in their own communities.
The recycling part is going very well. Everyone is taking part. We even did an awareness in the assembly just to educate our schoolmates about how important it is to sustain our community and environment. We want to keep our school and community clean, so we just want to keep it cool.
Into engineering ukuthi ngibone ukuthi i-KIC ibalulekile ey'nganeni nasesikoleni ngoba zikwazi ukuthi sizakwazi kumele zi-protect i-environment, ziyakwazi noku-prepare for i-future. Akudingi ukuthi ey'nganeni because othisha abangazi bafundile about ukunakekela i-environment.
So that's just our work in KZN. We are working in 3 provinces, KZN, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape. The story continues. Like I said, we're still in our pilot phase. We're learning a lot of lessons around our modality. You heard in the video that we use a sort of a blended modality where there is PLCs and an online course. And the schools that we work in are in those rural areas. So we are seeing in real time the challenges that teachers have in accessing the online course. But I must say our teachers are, once they are sold and they see the value, they also invest in their own learning. You know, they club together. I'm fortunately part of some of the WhatsApp groups that they have. And you would see most of the networks in South Africa in the early mornings. That's when you have less expensive data. So my phone will be buzzing around 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So you could see that these teachers are really invested. And to support them, I think, to support them with accessing online, we cannot solve it. Education alone cannot solve access. I think an access to the internet is a broader conversation that we have to have across sectors. I think it is time for us to be able to give access to everybody. So I'm going to move back to our panel. Prof. Hela, you have been very instrumental in shaping this content that we are also using in the Keep It Cool program to capacitate, yes, it's on, to capacitate teachers in a way that doesn't feel like an add-on, but that it is integrated in terms of what they're doing in the classroom. We are all asking ourselves the question, what kind of an education system do we need to have in order for us to address climate change effectively? What does the system need to look like in order for us to address climate change effectively and get young people to be interested in climate change?
Thank you, Ayanda. I think this is a lifetime question.
Yes.
It's one that I've been working on since 1990. When I went back to university to do a B.Ed honours, and I discovered that one of the things we were doing was we were miseducating our children because we were not actually giving them a full enough view of the world in which they find themselves. So ever since then, that's when I got involved in environment and sustainability education. Have been working on, well, what does it mean to give young children a full enough view of the world in which they live? Now that means we need to understand the world in which the child lives, and we also need to understand the schools in which they are, and we have to understand the work of the teachers who are teaching them. And you know, a teacher's work is to teach the curriculum. A teacher's work is not actually to build a school garden, right? Or a teacher's work is not actually to clean up the community. That is actually the work of the local government official. So we have to think about the work of the teacher, which is to teach the curriculum. We have to see the child in the environment in which they are. And we know that we need waste management and we need food in our food gardens. So we need to then build the partnerships with our community and the people in the community, the parents, community members, local government officials, you know, all of the people around, in and around the schools, to bring the best possible education that we can to children so that they are better prepared for the world in which they find themselves and they have a more holistic education. Now, when it comes to the curriculum, we also need to be doing curriculum innovation, which we've been working on a lot with the DBE. It's the fourth iteration now, Liko, with the curriculum innovations and revisions and the strengthening of our curriculum. And I read the other day that, you know, the first school in the country was a slave school, which was established for the children of slaves. And the intention of that school was to turn children into slaves, right? And to colonize their minds with control. And that was the pattern of our education all the way up till 1994. And since then, we've been trying to produce a curriculum which supports a civic-minded, engaged young person who can participate in the world, you know, in a more holistic and engaged way. So it means curriculum innovation that allows that. And all the efforts that we're making to strengthen the curriculum all the way from 1996 when we built the first curriculum, post-apartheid curriculum, has been to do that. And I think we're still on the same journey. And so I was very happy to, you know, see not big brothers and small sisters and whatever, but comrades, right? Collective community partners that are trying to do this work together, and we have to actually do it together. So that's the kind of system we need. We need a system that can embrace our children and the worlds that they're in, and that can also do this curriculum innovation that allows them a fuller view. I was talking to Carl just now from the CSIR, who's in the Access program. They started a wonderful program with university students called Our Habitable Planet, and teaching young people that this planet that we're on is the only one that we have. And it's an incredible place. It is habitable for us. And it's habitable for us and a whole lot of other species. Sadly, we're losing so many of the other species because of the way in which we are inhabiting the planet. So we need to change those practices. So we need new actions. So the kind of concept of climate action is to involve young people in creative activities that allow them to take action, to try to do things better. Okay, we don't want to make those same mistakes like, you know, technology innovations that produce more pollution, right? We don't need that. So we can do things like, look at this lovely magazine from the CSIR just on circular economy. I mean, imagine if every curriculum activity in the school helped children to understand the circular economy, how we would move, you know, and our teachers too. I think, Liko, you mentioned that we have 25,000 schools, 14 million children, and we have 454,000 teachers. That excludes the early childhood education teachers and the special school teachers. So we have 500,000 teachers. So one of the challenges to reach our teachers, to bring these ideas, you know, ideas about education, and as you said, they're not actually, once the teachers feel them and once the teachers get involved, they actually really love them. So there's something important about that too, that we need to appreciate. So it's not just technicist, it's actually social, the transformation that we are in. So I don't know if that answers the question a bit, Ayanda.
It brings us closer to the final answer. I think I really resonate with that, Profela. We in KIC, we're working with life orientation as the subject to run this program. I think when we're engaging with officials around the choice of life orientation, they're like, but why are you having a conversation around climate change in life orientation? Shouldn't you be looking at NSSS? And when you take a closer look at the ATPs, it's just ESD all over it. And to start to, when the teachers start seeing how all of the work that they're doing actually links up to all the learnings that the learners learn, from geography to natural science, and how do we then develop these citizens who care about the environment, who care about the next person. So yeah, it was and the process that the department has gone through now, which is to strengthen that life orientation textbook, has made, yeah, you can see the teachers' eyes light up. So I think we are beginning to see that work you're speaking about, even in the system itself. But yeah, I think the highlight for us is when we talk about issues around environmental and climate change, to not forget the care, the social. We tend to move a lot into the sciences, which are equally important, but I think the care is also something that we need to hold in the conversation. Profela, my next question, I could not ask you about the role of academia in this for climate action. What do we need to do better or do more of?
So academia, you know, I always, when I think about the role of academia, I think about what would happen to us if we didn't have our universities, right? And of course, then you start to appreciate the role of universities. And the work that universities do, I think, is sometimes maybe misread a little bit. Because what we do actually is support the development of the next generation of researchers, and to try to develop the next generation of researchers and teachers, professionals that occupy all of our institutions, right, and run them. So there's an important work to do there, both in terms of the way that we teach, but also, so our curriculums also need the same innovation that I was talking about with the school curriculum. But then in terms of the kind of research that we do, I think there's so much possibility, you know, for innovation research, and you see it at this conference, and literally where, you know, most conferences that you go to today, you'll find like so many of the disciplines are engaged in these questions of sustainability, you know, from designing new, I don't know if you saw it outside here, but these blocks, the interlocking building blocks, what an amazing innovation if we can get that working, right? And the tarmac, if we could just have more sustainable tarmac, you see, I mean, it's simple things, right? But that's why we need academia. So all disciplines, like the engineering disciplines, the geographical science disciplines, if we didn't have the climate modeling, for example, we couldn't really develop early warning systems, which means we couldn't support communities to be more prepared for the kinds of events which we are experiencing now. So we need all of those different sciences. We need the educational sciences. That's the one that I'm most familiar with, to do the kind of work we've been doing, right? Think about curriculum innovation, support research into which models of climate change education are going to be better for young people. You our research program in the last 15, 20 years, we ended up thinking there's a real problem with climate change education because people are just downloading the problem onto children. And the children are getting depressed and scared. Now, why do you want to do that to your children, right? So then we said, okay, what's the alternative? So let's research an alternative. So we researched, positive actions for change. We joined up with our colleagues in India. We made a handprint metaphor, not footprint. We don't want to teach you about the footprint all the time. We teach you about the handprint actions for change. And so we started this handprint project, which we developed also through the Habitable Planet Partnership and through many partnerships, and we've carried it strongly into the Fundisa for Change program. It's how we frame climate change education in this country now. Handprint care. My colleague Rob O'Donoghue has been working a lot on it, but a whole community of scholars, And it was because our students says, Prof, we know the problems. What we want to know is what are the solutions? How can we be part of that? Very crucial, you see. So to research ways of thinking about climate change in the education sector, so every discipline has got its role to play. And then, of course, we're also seeing in academia a whole new move towards transdisciplinary science, in which we're needing scientists from all disciplines to work together, and then for those same scientists from all disciplines to be working together with the professional organizations, stakeholders, multiple different stakeholders, and with community. So it's a different type of science, more integrative, and so on. And then the last role for academia, which I think we maybe need a little bit more of, is for us to really understand the contradictions that we're facing as we talk, innovation and change and so on. The one I've been trying to follow recently is the contradiction between the use of AI to resolve climate challenges, the whole hype around digitalization and AI, and the environmental impact of this new innovation. It's frightening, actually. So what are we going to do about that contradiction, you see, and what research do we need to grapple with those contradictions? So that is, in my view, is the work of academia. Yeah. Lots to do, yes.
So what would be the advice that you have for policymakers and program designers, just as a thing to take away when thinking about this work?
I think that the most crucial thing is that we need much better intersectoral collaboration. That's why I'm emphasizing comrades, rather than big brother or sister or uncle or whatever. Liko, sorry for challenging your analogy, but we really do need that, because there's no way that one single government department can solve this challenge that we're facing. The level of work that is needed in order to be able to confront not only the climate challenge, but also the social change demands in our society. You do know that we've had children in our province that have been dying of hunger this day and age in this country. You see, we really need to work together. So we need Department of Environmental Affairs, Forestry and Fisheries. We need water, our Department of Water and Sanitation. We need Department of Agriculture, working with DBE, DHET all of the time. Science and innovation, because we need these innovation ideas to come into the education system. So we really need this very high level, strong collaboration. I think the new Climate Change Act that Dr. Glela mentioned is very vital, because if you look at the annex in that Climate Change Act, it requires every single sector to develop a climate change strategy, right? A strategic approach to dealing with climate change. And what we would love to see, I think, as a country, how do those connect, So how does the climate change strategy of the DHET connect with the one that the DBE is putting forward, with the one that Environmental Affairs is putting forward, the one that the transport sector is putting forward? Now, how do we do that as a nation? I think that's our biggest challenge. And then the last point I want to make to policymakers is that we must not forget our teachers. I mentioned that we have half a million teachers. We also have TVET lecturers who are crucial to the just transition. We have community college lecturers who are teaching our parents and adults in our communities, and yet we neglect those educators. So the educators are very, very crucial in enabling this transformation. So I really want to appeal to, invest properly in the educators. We've seen the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan, huge amounts of investment for technology development and so on, and then they'll put, an investment of 25 million for the country's teachers, which is it's inadequate actually if you look at the scale of the transformation that we actually need. So I think we really need to be serious about what it is and how can we integrate what we need to do into those systems of funding that we already have. So I think this effort of the DBE for, mainstreaming ESD as a cross-cutting concern into the system of normal systems of activity is very crucial. And then we need to look at, well, how do we actually support our teachers properly? That's the point I would like to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. She's always, I'm always lost in your analysis. Very profound, Prof. I think it definitely we are seeing that we all need to move together, work closer together. And I think the panelists that we also have here, I'm hoping that when we leave today, we'll continue to engage, meet new people, build those intersections going forward. We are now shifting gears a little bit. We are moving into what we're doing with some of the programs that we're doing with the youth. We've got Lean and Ruth who are working with young people, really looking at data analysis. So from a technological and innovation perspective, we want to look at their work and how their data, how this app also helps the young learners to tell stories through data. So Lynn, I don't want to unpack your program a lot. Lynn and Ruth, if you would like to please share with us some of the work that you're doing around digital technology and storytelling with young people. But you can, yeah.
Of climate change are felt by people differently. It affects the adolescents and youth more, and especially for the girls and the young women.
Ifanana tsikana nkari zakusinga kana zimajikuza kuzira kudzala njira yoti mwana makwala kati afuna apike nkulu zimasowa ndeti mwana tichokesa kumanga atsikana kuti tipike tikasake nkulu kuti makwala asapike kwala kumanga atsikana zisingakalala zakuti mbali mwezi yazotsata zakusintha kwa nyengo koma pataphuzisidwa mazindikira kumayazo kuti
The Climate Champions Project is an advocacy project that is targeting mainly young people from age 10 to 35 years of age. Its main objective is to increase knowledge among adolescents and youth on climate change, and also to help them to utilize the climate information.
Information yako kama ndio kusinta kwa yangu isa na bure project kwa hiyo nyamada zinalo zote hudrabo ayo chifunga na body information tunacho bodeza mwangira zosiana siana, for example ngadi Facebook in social media kuna information yana na body za ndio za voda kwa Facebook na body tizia kuna body information yana ndio ndio information yana na body zinalo za voda na body some of the sense to ask to know better.
So far, the Climate Champions Project has implemented 7 activities
one of which being development of the training manual that was tailored to young people, and also it trained young people as trainer of trainers on climate change, and also the TOTs that were trained rolled out peer-to-peer sessions and also conducted community learning sessions.
Litapanga training imeneyi zinandilimbikitsa kwambiri nali ndi information yonse yokuza kusintha kwa nyengo. So the first thing to do after the training was kuti ndiphunzitse anyamata anzanga kuchokera ku club yomwe ndimachokera Chipata Youth Club. Poyamba nkhani yakusamala mitengo tinkangoona ngati ya anthu akuluakulu. Nditachita nawo maphunziro amene amanenanso kuti ifeyo ayufi amene tingatinso ndi ntchito yayikulu yosamala chilengedwe.
Matoti anabwera pagulatu kuzatiphunzitsa ife sinachitenge chinthu ambaye komano tinaganiza zona kuti chifukwa cha maphunziro awa tingapange chani. Tinaganiza zona kuti tilime tomato amene apindulire dera lathu komasankho osiyanasiyana ngakhalenso kwa ife achinyamata ngwiro tikakhazana kuti tagulitsa tomatoyo. Peer session inatithandiza ife achinyamata kusintha mindset change kudzera kunkhani za ulimi komanso kutha kuphunzitsa zinthu zamene kusintha kwa nyengo kulili.
As a government, we are hoping that this project will help our adolescents to be meaningful participants to the call towards climate action in their communities.
Okay, Lynn.
Good morning, everyone. As was introduced, I'm going to give a little bit of a different perspective. So, myself, I'm really not an expert at education. I'm learning a lot, but I'm an expert at making maps. So I'm a project manager at Nazca Maps, and we develop digital tools and interactive maps. And we try to make them very user-friendly and very usable for the people we're making them for. And today I'm going to talk a bit about the digital tools that we developed for the Climate Champions project. You saw in the video what the project is all about. The Plan International Malawi developed a training manual, but we wanted to go one step further and really develop a digital tool that could be used by the youth in Malawi. That is our role in the project, and we have made a first version, and I want to give you a sneak peek today of this first version we developed. The tool exists of 3 parts. One part is about improving the basic knowledge about climate change. The second part is about climate risk data. And the third part is about sharing adaptations to these problems. So the first part is a digital version of the training manual developed by Plan International Malawi. We try to use a lot of icons to make it easy to understand, and also use a very easy progress tracker to keep them attracted and involved. The second part is about climate risk data that we get from our partner Climate Scale, who are experts in modeling climate data, and our job was then to make it easy to understand and to transform it into a tool that can be used by the youth. The third part is about sharing possible adaptations to these problems. So we developed a map where they can add adaptations, successful adaptation stories, so other communities, other youth in our study region, Kasungu in Malawi, can learn about what their other people are doing. One of the challenges was the internet connection in Malawi, and specifically in the Kasungu region in the rural areas, and therefore we developed an offline tool that can be used completely offline, which makes it very flexible and usable in places with a low internet connection.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I think you've also, because my question was going to be, you are working in an area where we would not necessarily think we have access. So the ability for the app to also be offline, I think, is a great addition to it. I suppose my question is, do young people find this meaningful? Because we develop these amazing things for them. So Ruth, I don't know your experience with young people engaging with this app. Has that looked like? So of course there'll be challenges, but I'm sure there are some stories that we can get about young people engaging with this, and if they find value in the app. Yes.
I think on that one, I'll leave it to Leah to respond, because she often comes to TASTE to work with the young people. So I would love her to take it, and I should take the.
Okay, so indeed you could ask, like, how do people in Belgium relate to the youth in Malawi, and how difficult is it to develop a tool for people you have never met on the other side of the world. So we used this kind of design thinking approach, where we really try to empathize with our end users and take them along in the process, with a lot of prototyping and testing and iteration to develop the tool. So last year we went to Malawi, to the villages, where we really experienced their living conditions, and also how the youth groups organize the trainings. And we also did a workshop with the youth to really understand what are their skills, can they use a tablet, are they interested in using a tablet, and also what their local knowledge was about climate change, because we also want to take into account this local aspects. And then we did an ideation together with our partners from Plan International Malawi, and also developed this kind of user flow, where we really said, okay, our target users are the youth trainers, the youth themselves, but also the project staff from Plan International Malawi, who are able to manage the content that will be added by the youth. So we will have meaningful content in the tool. We also developed a prototype, an interactive prototype that was tested before the implementation started, so we really knew that our solution would be effective and would work. Yes, that was.
So maybe just to add, the experience has been so exciting. The young people in Malawi are really excited and looking forward to use the tool that is being developed. As we are living in a technological world now, they are really looking forward to use the tablet to access the information, which was not the case previously. Previously, I think there were ways of accessing information, because people in the lower areas, they don't have access to the gadgets and all that. So they could go lay down a tree where there are posters pasted, and then they access the information through the poster on the tree. And someone, when they take it out, another one, when coming, they'll not find the information on that poster. So they are really looking forward, and they are really excited to explore more ways of accessing information about climate change.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Ruth. I'm going to shift to Wetu now. I'm just cognizant sort of our time. Sorry. I'm going to shift over to Wetu, who's worked with Plan Act, also a project manager from Plan Act. And Wetu works with young people around heat stress, managing that process, and getting young people to really be empowered in terms of how to measure this heat stress and how do they then adapt and respond to it. So I'm going to play a video just showcasing some of the work that Wetu and the team are busy with.
All the people are locally scouted by community leaders and personnel that they trust. We introduce them to not only the work they're doing today, but actually what the work is about. So we make sure that a lot of our workshop focuses on what climate change means and specifically what it means for them. We localize the idea of climate change as much as possible. A lot of actually determine is actually how much stress we are getting from the heat. So it's not only the temperature or the actual heat that's coming from the sun, it's also looking at things like the heat of the wind that's passing through, the levels of humidity in the air, the amount of geothermal radiation that's coming from the floor. It's just a combination to see all the factors of heat that can put stress on our everyday lives. We want to get all the data that we've collected from all 6 places and see what patterns we can see from the data that's collected. And from that, hopefully, we can pull some solutions out about what we can do to mitigate climate change and heat stress in the most affected areas. I think when people think about climate change, we think about the giant corporations that are spewing all the pollution into the air, and we always think of it at that meta scale. And I think people need to care about it more so that we can bring the idea of climate change way more to a micro scale and a more personal scale.
Amazing, Wetu. How do you get young people involved in this program? So how do you do it?
So a lot of the heat monitoring campaigns we do, like the first one that you saw there and the other ones that we've been doing in the coming years, it's been community focused, whether they're collecting the data or involved in advocacy. And getting young people involved was the key to getting that mobilization going. Because for the average person, including myself, climate change can get intimidating, the concept. But youth who have maybe heard the terms in class, or maybe their favorite influencer is talking about it, or they come across it in technology, they're familiar with these terms, and they're willing. And that willingness, we find it has a knock-on effect throughout the community. And they have really helped us mobilize and garner heat and momentum around these monitoring campaigns. So involving them was not a choice. It was the key. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of policy, because obviously you work in communities, I'm sure you work with municipalities, government departments. How does Plan Act build or work with those entities and the youth? Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously when you gather data, you don't just let it sit for fun. We're not doing this for fun. We're doing this for impact. So our engagement strategy when it comes to government and relevant departments is with the community. We walk with them and we work from the ground up. From community leadership, we can maybe get some time with the counselor that can link us to a relevant committee or an official that we can score a meeting with. And it is through building those networks and navigating those networks with the community is where our advocacy, we find sustainability. And that's where youth is important too, because advocacy takes time. Policy influencing takes years, guys. So, and in those years, the official that was with you in the corner, they might retire or change departments. Elections come and change everything. So once we've built that network with our community partners, they have the resilience to, even if their entire phone book crumbles, they know how to rebuild that network. They know how to get momentum going again. But it's not just about working with them, it's about working from a state of capacitation. The way we work with communities is we believe that climate work needs to be linked with capacitation on greater government engagement mechanisms. Engaging with government doesn't mean sitting down with Mr. Liko and talking to him in a meeting. We have amazing public participation avenues that as communities and as youth, we really need to use. We need to contribute to our IDPs. We need to be at consultations for public policies that turn around and affect us. Active citizenship is such a powerful tool that if youth is capacitated enough, and there are rooms like these that open stages to youth like me, we can build the confidence to speak. We can build the confidence to be part of conversations and use tools that exist to have some sort of powerful impact in the work we do.
Thank you. I think it was so refreshing to hear from a young person as well. I think it is important that when we have these, and I know we move from education, teacher perspective, I really like how we're sort of rounding off this conversation by, I wish we had more young people on the panel, because we always talk about youth for youth and not from the youth. But it was really refreshing to hear that we will learn more about the work that we do. If you have a question, don't forget the Mentimeter. I am running out of time, and I can see some of you a little bit. So my last question is, you spoke about, to the panel, we spoke about this youth activism. Why should young people care and take action? So just like one sentence, why should they care and take action? Do they need to take action?
I'll start. I think not only young people, right?
Yeah.
We should all care and take action. So I think that's, for me, an important point. And I think from your presentation and from the Malawian presentation, you know, how do we share this better? So the amazing work that the youth are doing, it made me think of geography teachers. Like, how do we support geography teachers to be able to support more groups of young people to do the kind of work that you're doing? So that's the type of thing that I think a network like the Fundisa for Change can do. We can work with you, we can share it with teachers, and then they can learn from you. And then more of our young people can do those maps. You know, so it's that kind of a question, I think. So we should all care, and at all the levels at which we are working and where we are sitting. But it's amazing to see, you know, such lovely programs and the inspiration that young people get from it. I think it's very important to see that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Prof. We can just take it down the line.
I will give it to Ruth.
Okay, I think that we need to work together. The issue shouldn't be about teaching the science, they call it science, but it has to be co-creating the solutions together with the young people. So we really need to bring the young people on the forefront, and we should maybe also empower them with the knowledge, with the back, with the mind at the back of our minds, that we don't want just to, you know, give them the knowledge for the sake of learning or build their future, but we want them also to contribute and shape the future. Yeah, so that's all I think I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I think my co-panelists have covered it beautifully, but just to round it off, like they said, we can't just look at the youth as someone who we need to impart our knowledge on and teach and teach and teach. We need to be looked at as catalysts for change. Youth are the people who we can kind of roll with the punches. So I do think that whatever knowledge comes down, there is a space for youth to reshape it, remold it, and reiterate it, and make it more relevant for mitigation challenges that may come, make it more relevant for new climate challenges and pressures that we may face. So it's a sustainability issue. It's just to make sure that there's always steam to keep the fire going. Thanks.
Thank you, Wetu. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my panelists. I know you were all burning to ask a question or two, but time is always not on our side. I'd like to call on Dr. Lauren to give us our closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. Wow, this session has been really, really inspiring. I feel inspired. So I got the opportunity to just do a final closing remarks, and I know we're actually out of time, so I'm going to kind of skip through what I was going to really say and get to the main points. And what I really want to talk about, and it was something that we discussed earlier, is what we did some work with the Department of Forestries, Fisheries and the Environment, as well as the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, in partnership with the Human Sciences Research Council and ourselves, the CSIR. We partner together to develop what we call the Citizens Environmental Awareness Index. The aim of this is to really understand and look at, through national surveys, understand what the environmental literacy is of the South African population. So the Citizen Environmental Awareness Index was formed. This is based on biannual national surveys that were undertaken. The first survey was undertaken in 2022 and the second one in 2024. So the results that you showed were in the 2022 results, but now we've got some more data looking at what's happened in 2024. So I want to just quickly go through what those results look like and where we are in the country in terms of our environmental literacy. Understanding that an environmental literate society is what's going to drive us being able to achieve our sustainable development goals and to grow in terms of sustainable development. So if we look at the index was broken down into 5 different categories. That based on environmental interest, we see that South Africa scores a 60. It's not a 60%, it's just a score from 0 to 100. We score 60, which means in 2024, which is down 5 points since 2022. In terms of environmental awareness, we are sitting at a 52, which is also up since 2024. Environmental concern, this is our concern that will drive our action towards environmental problems. We sit at a 55, which is down 3 points. Pro-environmental norms, we are down 7 points, so currently it's at 51, it was 58 in 2022. And then pro-environmental actions, those are the actions that we actually undertake to address environmental challenges. It's at a 42, which is down, up 1 place. So what you can see in terms of the little emoticons that we have there, that South Africa really sits at the midpoint or mid-level, so that we really do have a bit of a moderate environmental literacy. So understanding that this needs to increase if we're going to want to make some changes. And I think with what we've been talking about today and the influence that we're having in the education system, that this will carry on increasing as we progress doing these awarenesses. I'm just going to skip quickly to what's happening in the youth. So if we look at climate change, we asked the question that was asked earlier to the public, knowing that this went from 16 years to whatever age upwards, 16 to 24 are a category for youth. We will ask them how much they know about climate change, and you will see since 2027, when the first survey happened, that has increased. But in terms of what the youth know, we would expect the youth to know a lot more, considering that it is being taught in schools. This is not necessarily the case. We've seen that of the population that answered in the youth, it's sitting at 59% compared to the others. So it's not necessarily that much higher than the other age categories. If we go to the skepticism, the next two questions, and how much they believe that climate change is actually happening or that it is caused by human activity, we've seen that there is a sort of decrease in the skepticism, which is great. So obviously the education is working, that people are understanding that, and the youth are understanding that they actually have a role and are playing in affecting the climate. But what's most concerning is in terms of the concern about the environment, understanding that concern actually drives the actions that will reduce our impact on the environment. We see that there is actually a very low concern in terms of being very or extremely concerned. Also, we would expect this of being higher in the youth, which is not the case. We see the populations are all pretty much, or the groups are all very much the same. So this just brings me to my closing points, in that that South Africa really has a moderate level of environmental literacy, and I think with what we've talked about today, and it's looking really inspiring that if we continue to inspire the youth, continue to add into our curriculums at school, that we can really increase it. And we're looking forward to, as we engage in the Citizen Environmental Index in the future, that we see these indices increasing in terms of awareness and concern. Thank you, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, that was short and sweet. Thank you so much. I've neglected your brother and sister. I'm going with the comrades. See how you can't trust me, I'm not loyal. We need to continue the conversation, but these engagements should not be the only spaces where we engage with each other or in meetings. So I would like to ask each and every one of us who has been a part of this conversation to continue the conversation. Our panelists, we will give you the questions that were posted on the Mentimeter. You know the panelists. If you had posted a question to a particular panelist, please reach out. They're going to be here. And that, I think I'm hopeful. I hope we're all hopeful that we are facing, not a challenge, but we're working towards adapting and building a more climate resilient society. Thank you very much to my panelists. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us.
I'll stand in the back. And also, do you want to show my